You're listening to The Dr. Shoup Show.
Critics love this show.
Let's get back to improving your life with exclusive information and consultation. Here's Dr. Randy Shoup.
What on earth am I talking about in terms of sealing your driveway? Well, let's think about it for a minute. When you do that activity, what does that do for you? Number one, when you apply the sealer material on your driveway, it fills up all the little holes and nooks and crannies that have been created in your driveway. It fills up the cracks that are in your driveway. And what does that do for you? Why is that a good thing? It keeps water and moisture from getting down inside of there, sitting there and pooling away. And when it freezes, that water freezes and expands, and it buckles and cracks and tears up your driveway. It also prohibits little tiny seeds and goodies like that from getting down in the little nooks and crannies of your driveway and all of a sudden starting to sprout and grow. And now all of a sudden you have a 75-foot sequoia in the middle of your driveway that wasn't there yesterday. And so it's a little difficult, and your house buckles and everything goes to heck in a handbasket. So it does a lot of really, really good preventative things. Why is there a connection with dentistry? I'm going to tell you. You're listening to the Dr. Randy Shoup Show. I am your host, Dr. Randy Shoup, and we're talking about sealing driveways and why it has a connection to dentistry. And so this is what I'm going to tell you is what your dentist should be doing for you every time your dentist touches your tooth or cuts your tooth, drills on your tooth, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. This is what they should be doing. This procedure that I'm going to describe should be done every time you have a filling. Absolutely anytime you have an inlay or an onlay done. Absolutely positively anytime the dentist says they're going to do a crown on your tooth. And you and I both know at this stage of the game, we've talked about it before, that when the dentist says they want to do a crown on your tooth, you're going to do an Amy Winehouse and you're going to go, no, no, no. Because you're going to talk about onlays, okay? We already know about that. But if somebody is already there and you're having a crown, you need to do this sealing process as well. Absolutely, positively, anytime before a temporary crown goes on your tooth, you want to do this. So what am I talking about? We're talking about sealing teeth like sealing a driveway. What on earth is he talking about? You're listening to the Dr. Randy Shoup Show. I am your host, Dr. Randy Shoup, and here are the steps that every dentist should do on every tooth every time a dentist touches a tooth with any sort of cutting or rotary instrument. I don't know how to make it any more complete coverage than that. There are no well maybes. There are no ifs. This has to happen every single time. Here's why. When a dentist drills on your tooth, they drill through the enamel, which is a hard, crystalline, solid, rock-like piece of structure. Once they drill through the enamel, they're down into the meat of your tooth, which is called the dentin. And the dentin is porous. It has bazillions of holes and channels in it. It has a bunch of water in it, and it has a hole just like a soda straw. On one end of the hole is out towards the world. The other end of the soda straw is butted right up against the nerve of your tooth. And anything that happens on the outside of the world, you get cold on your tooth, you scrape your fingernail across your tooth, the dentist drills on your tooth, that activity gets transmitted right down through that tube, goes right to the nerve of your tooth, and that's why you go yowie when anybody touches your tooth like that. So, here's what has to happen. You need to seal those holes off so that bad things on the outside of the world that happen don't get translated down into the inside of the tooth, irritating the dickens out of the nerve of your tooth. And if you honk off the nerve of your tooth long enough, it will die. And when it dies, you get an abscess. And when you get an abscess, you need to have a root canal or you need to have the tooth pulled. So there's this terrible, awful, catastrophic cascade of bad things that happen if your tooth remains sensitive for a long period of time. So this sealing process seals all that stuff up, so that the sensitivity stuff never, ever, ever happens. So here's what your dentist absolutely positively should do. You must require that they do it. You must demand that they do it. You need to ask them, are you sure you're doing it? And if they go no, then you need to go, I need to find somebody that can. Here's the process. Every time I open up a tooth, I cut on the tooth, I have to take out an old filling, I'm preparing a tooth for an inlay or an onlay, and on those rare occasions I have to cut a tooth down for a crown, here's what we do. Immediately when we're finished with all the preparation stuff, the tooth is all shaped up, it's nice, it's perfect, everything's the way we want it. The dentist is staring at brand new, freshly cut open, naked, for the first time, virgin dental tubules on your tooth. If there's no insult there, there's no irritation, there's no bacteria, there's no nothing. Here's what they absolutely have to do. Number one, the dentist wants to take that little miniature, teeny tiny, itsy bitsy, teeny weeny little sandblaster and sandblast the surface of the tooth because it makes it a little rough. And you want it a little bit roughened up so that the sealer material sticks to the tooth better. Number one. Number two, you want to have your dentist sterilize or clean your tooth. We use ozone. We use ozonated water, and we use ozone gas, pure O3 ozone. It is one of the most naturally occurring, strongest antimicrobial agents on the planet. So we scrub the tooth down with ozone to make sure there's absolutely no bacteria, nothing bad on the surface of the tooth. You can use other things. You can use sterilizing agents, and you can use stuff called chlorhexidine gluconate, which is a fancy name for Paradex, which we give to people that have gum disease. It's a good antimicrobial agent, but I like ozone the best. So we've prepared the tooth, we've sandblasted the tooth, now we've cleansed the tooth. It is absolutely pristinely clean. Then the fourth thing that we do, there is a particular little primer, okay? And it's about the consistency of water, and you dip a little brush in it and you paint this little primer material all over the tooth. When you paint a wall, you oftentimes will coat the wall with primer first to get the paint to stick better. That's what this stuff does. This stuff soaks into the tooth, soaks into those little tubules, and it makes an absolutely perfect seal over the surface of the tooth. The second thing you do is apply what's called a bonding agent or bonder. This is liquid tooth-colored filling material. It's really all it amounts to. It's liquid tooth-colored filling material. You paint that on top of the primer. The primer is designed to bring this bonding material and suck it down into the tooth, and now you have an absolutely perfect coating of this primer and bonder material all over the surface of those open tubules. All of them are covered, all of them are protected, all of them are sealed, and then the dentist will shine a light on your tooth, and all of that stuff, the primer that looks like water, the bonding material that look like liquid tooth-colored filling material, sets as hard as concrete in an instant. It just hardens like a rock, and it forms an impervious barrier from the outside world down into the fresh meat of your tooth. And that is called a biological seal. You've biologically sealed the tooth. From that point forward, you don't want to touch it. You don't want to scrape it away. You don't want to grind it away. And here's the wonderful thing about it. The tooth, from that point forward, is not sensitive at all. There's no sensitive. Have you ever had a filling go in and it was sensitive? You couldn't bite on it. You couldn't chew on it. You couldn't get hot and cold on it. It wasn't sealed. Did you ever have a crown go on your tooth? You couldn't bite on it. You couldn't get hot and cold on it. You couldn't touch it. It was terrible. You hated it. It wasn't sealed. All of that stuff got down into the inside of the tooth. And did the dentist say, well, it'll get better, well, it'll get better, well, it'll get better, and it never got better, and it never got better, and it never got better, and then finally the dentist said, well, you need to have a root canal. Gee, where did you hear that before besides with me, good old Uncle Randy on the Dr. Randy Shoup Show? So you want your dentist to seal, do a biologic seal on the naked inside of your tooth before they put fillings, inlays and onlays, or absolutely before they do crowns. And I know that you're going to know to say no to crowns. I feel so much better.
You're listening to the Dr. Shoup Show. Exclusive insider info, audio, and video is online now at ddsradio.com.